boasting stately homes, spectacular estates, and the title of baronetcy, the Ushers were once one of the richest families in Scotland. 60 years ago, Stuart Usher was born into what was a fairy tale world. Today, his privileged background has come to torment him. The family fortune is gone, and Stuart cannot accept how his life has descended with it.
I believe that any person in my position has no choice but to fight and never give up. If I gave up, I could never have any form of absolution. I would die unrequited.
Stuart Usher is a man possessed. He's made it his life's work to reclaim his ancestral lands and recapture his glorious past. And he does it in the name of family honor.
You like onion with a hot dog?
Yes, please.
Jumbo sausage? There you are, Squire. That's 150 and 50. Jumbo sausage, are you going for? Would you like onion with this?
Yes, please, yes.
Onion with a cheeseburger? Onion with a cheeseburger?
His grandfather was Sir Robert Usher, 2nd Baronet of Norton and Wells. Today, Stuart Usher earns £18 a day frying burgers for tourists at the English border.
What other jobs have you done?
Done a bit of taxi driving, barman work. Well, I've written off to be a film extra or model, you know. Don't know whether it'll come to anything. Hopefully it will. If you're really on the bones of your backside, you make shift, and it doesn't worry me at all. I've got no money. What's the point of keeping quiet about it? Everyone knows that anyway.
The stately homes of England, how beautiful they stand, to prove the upper classes.
Stuart grew up on this 6,500-acre estate in the Borders called Wells.
There's a nice... Actually, that might be... No, it's a grey squirrel, because red squirrels are getting very rare.
Of the eldest son.
The biggest decision he had to make as a child was to choose between a shooting party or a ride out with the Jed Forest hunt.
Look at that bloody pheasant. He's after a hen now.
We'll stand by the stately homes of England.
There's old Jackie Roger. How you doing, Jackie? Are you working at the moment?
Now and again, when it suits you.
Well, I suffer from the other thing. I can't get enough bloody work.
The Ushers made a fortune producing whiskey. If there'd been a Scottish rich list at the turn of the 20th century, they would have appeared at the top.
This was all the private drive to Wells. This was all a private road, or a drive, you could say, in the old days. These were the informal gardens. This is the walled garden. Beautiful gardens they were, too. There's Hall Rule House. That was the dower house on the estate. So, you know, all the laundry was handled in that house for Wells House. Those are the farm cottages. They lease them out to holiday makers. Money, by God, plenty money. You know, and I can't even afford to have a bloody couple of pints over the weekend.
Stuart used to dine at the family mansion, Wells House, with butlers, grooms and chauffeurs in attendance. Holidays from Uppingham School were spent fishing for salmon with his father on the estate's private waters. These days, Stuart has to pay to fish there, but he refuses, as a matter of principle.
It was really a world on its own. It was actually a fairy tale world. I realize that now. Of course, I didn't realize it then. And now it doesn't exist. Bloody thing.
The Ushers had to sell the estate in 1995. It was bought by private landowners, but Stuart can still see Wells from where he lives now, a mile or so away.
A room with a view and you and no one to give advice. That sounds a paradise.
The reason I bought here was I could see Bedrule, which is up there, or see a part of Bedrule, which is where I was brought up as a child. That was important to me. And also the fact that this mansion house is still standing. I quite like, you know, it's quite nice to live in a complex like that.
Talk will bring this, that and t'other thing.
But Stuart doesn't live in the mansion. He lives in another house just behind it.
Here we are. This is my my establishment, I always regarded it as a hovel, but I've got quite fond of it, really. But I certainly wouldn't have lived here by choice. It has a hovelish appearance as far as I'm concerned. It's not exactly my cup of tea. You know, it looks a bit like a council house, you could say. Well, luckier than a lot of people. I mean, some people on this planet don't have a roof over their heads. So, you know, from that point of view, we're very fortunate.
It doesn't embarrass you, though?
No, I'm beyond being embarrassed by worldly things like that. But I'll be over there, onto the estate. That ridge up there that you can see up there is the estate. I'll be back on there.
It was a tragic accident that first spelled disaster for the Ushers. In 1962, Stuart's uncle, the 4th Baronet, toppled off a horse and died. He hadn't made a will. In turn, the title passed on to his 2 sons, but since they both suffered from Down syndrome, they were unable to make a will either. As the sons would both die intestate, the family were told they would eventually have no choice but to sell the estate.
Just because Sir Stuart, my uncle, did not make a will, and he had the misfortune to have 2 Down syndrome sons, all the efforts of previous generations of Ushers just washed out in probably 20 or 30 years. Quite unacceptable.
Stuart's father tried to find a way to keep the estate in the family, but failed. He couldn't bear the thought of one day losing Wells, and in the late 60s took Stuart and his brother to South Africa to begin a new life. Stuart ran a business there, but it went bust. The inevitable sale of the estate in 1995 prompted Stuart's return home. The Usher empire had crumbled in just over 30 years.
This is still our land. It was never got off us by fair means. It was got off by means foul.
The collapse of a once great dynasty was destined to be a footnote in history. But history hadn't accounted for Stuart Usher. For the last 7 years, Stuart has immersed himself in a bizarre crusade. His enemy is Brodie's, an Edinburgh law firm who managed the estate for the 2 Down syndrome brothers before it was finally sold.
Hello, darling. You have a good day at school? Good. Oh, where do I put this thing?
You're making signposts.
Yeah, I am, darling.
Just don't get all on the rabbit's hut.
No, I won't.
Right, we're going to get the horses down for the college.
Right, darling.
Stuart believes Brodie's should have found a way to stop Wells slipping from the family ownership. He also says that when the estate was sold, his inheritance amounted to a fraction of what it should have been because of years of mismanagement by the firm. Now he intends to make them pay.
What do you think of my smiling faces here? Brodie's doesn't look too happy. Hello, is that the Glasgow Herald? Hello, is that the Evening News? Hello, is that the Independent newspaper? My name is Stuart Usher. I'm going to stage a demonstration tomorrow outside Brodie's offices. The name is Usher, U-S-H-E-R. I'm taking a bagpiper with me. A bagpiper. You know, if you want to get the action, I'd have a reporter there at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Bye.
Scotsman.
Editor of the Scotsman, he said, we'll be there tomorrow. He said, excellent.
Stuart wants his day in court against Brodie's. In the meantime, he's fighting a peculiar PR war against the firm.
Good morning.
Today, he's staging his 5th demonstration in the past 12 months. But as an usher, he always maintains dignity in times of conflict.
Good morning. No one in a very good mood here today.
Before joining Stuart, Davy the bagpiper says he played sax for Chuck Berry and Desmond Dekker.
Do you think think the public view you as a bit of a crackpot?
Well, they try and make me out to be a crackpot. They make you out as though you're slightly mentally deficient, which is exactly what they did in Soviet Russia and in Nazi Germany. People who were dangerous to them, oh, the chap's off his head, you know. Except in Russia, they locked you up. Huh? A face at the window ducked off there. Did you see that?
What was that?
A face at the window when I looked round. It ducked off.
Brodys have continually refuted Stuart's claims, and they are backed by the Scottish Law Society. It spent 20 months investigating 11 complaints Stuart made against Brodys, but dismissed them all after finding no evidence of wrongdoing. And when he turned to the legal ombudsman, Stuart was again told his claims had no foundation.
Well done, Davy. That's hard work.
Okay, yeah. I think that's certainly the most. You'll get the money now.
Yet Stuart is a man who believes he has right on his side. Rejection feeds his determination. With the summer approaching, a new Usher offensive is about to begin. Stuart Usher's fight is fueled by a sense of duty to restore family honor.
Get in. Oh, well, how's that? Not exactly a masterpiece, but look at it.
There's two ways that people could look at it. Either they think he's a complete nutter, or that he is somebody who's got an amazing conviction, because it must take a certain amount of self-pride to actually go and do something like that. And at the end of the day, I say good on him.
Battle HQ is at the bottom of the garden and home to more than 5,000 legal documents.
Always dodging. Paper, dodge, dodge, dodge. That's the best bloody thing in the world, huh?
Over the past 7 years, Stuart has spent his days investigating how his family estate was run and has been trying to build a case against Brodys' lawyers.
Brodys. God, fed up with that. Ah, the blasted thing has just disappeared.
He's become so consumed by the fight that his role as husband and father has had to take second place.
Ever since my homecoming, it has taken my life over almost completely. Obviously, I have to make time for my family, but the overriding driving force all the time has been this fight.
While Stuart strives to restore the Usher name, his wife Gillian, a schoolteacher, struggles to support the family. In theory, he is supposed to take care of the housework.
Come here, you.
It certainly frustrates me terribly, the amount of time he spends on the case. I'll often come home feeling exhausted from a long day at school, and then Stuart starts to tell me all the ins and outs of what's been happening.
We used to do lots of things, like just go out for meals or picnics and stuff like that, and he's not into that anymore, and he's quite short-tempered when he wants to be, and if you don't do something, and he snaps, and he doesn't mean it, and then in the end, he will apologize, but he's quite moody.
Did you get time to do the housework with, your legal work and your...
Well, sometimes no, and that's actually led to a few quarrels between us, because Jill is a very, very tidy person. When there's been a crisis on, I tend to let the housework slip, and, well, women being women, they get terribly excited about that, and then the next thing, there's a bit of a fallout about that. So I drop the legal work and start on the housework. When you're on the trail of lawyers, it's like a foxhound closing in for the kill. And, to suddenly start dusting or something like that is not exactly my cup of tea.
Outside the country's going to the dogs. Crooked lawyers. There you are there.
Stuart is on a mission which transcends his battle with Brodys. He's convinced himself the entire legal profession is corrupt, and a year ago formed his own action group, Scotland Against Crooked Lawyers.
Scotland against crooked lawyers.
I have a lawyer. Have you ever got into heated conversations with lawyers?
We have. One was sent round, I'm sure, as a spy. And I said, you know, I just regard you as a crook. And he said, oh, I could knock you down for that. And I said, well, please try.
Scotland against crooked lawyers.
There's so many of them going about.
God, the country's run.
And then he sort of slunk off in that sort of lawyerly way of theirs. They have a special way of walking.
What's that?
Well,
Show me.
they slink. They sort of slink. Instead of walking a normal path, they sort of go like this.
Would you be prepared to get into a pawn shop?
I would. They could well send someone down to provoke me.
Every one of us have got a story to tell.
Have you had trouble with lawyers, sir?
Eh?
Have you had any trouble with lawyers? Not.
A week after this demonstration, Stuart resigned as leader of the group, following what he claims was an attempt to topple him. Some members believed he'd started to hijack the movement to serve his own personal campaign. Stuart's son, Richard, is only 14, but he's already developed more than a passing interest in his father's struggle.
Our family were made baronets on the 29th of August, 1899, my great-great-grandfather by Queen Victoria, and my first cousin, Sir Andrew Usher, who lives down in London, is the baronet, and I am last or seventh in line to the succession of the title.
But Richard's enthusiasm isn't shared by his older sister, Catherine.
I'm not sexist or anything, but you know, when you're in a situation like this, the son or the boy is usually more important than the daughter.
Despite all this women's lib talk and all the rest of it, things like this type of thing, it's the man that really counts. Not to say that the women aren't very clever and this, that, the next thing, they certainly are. In fact, they're darn sight more clever than we are in many ways. Bye, darling.
Stuart is a product of the aristocracy, but his predicament has helped open up a new world to him. In their pomp, the Ushers wouldn't have gone anywhere near the Cannon pub. Today, Stuart counts the locals among his closest friends, and to them, he has become the unlikeliest of working-class heroes.
I'm becoming violent again.
Yeah, I think it took a tremendous lot of guts for him to do what he's doing, especially going up to the top of the Carter Bar and working in the burger van.
Very good.
There's not everybody would do that. I certainly wouldn't.
Language.
When he's working at the burger van, I think he will think a great deal, as you say, on his own, looking possibly over land that the family used to own or have, and wonder what the future's going to be.
Well done, the Badminton Club. Damn good. Well done.
He's not a snob, and this is why he is so well liked. Although, as you say, he comes from an aristocratic background.
That's so bloody good. I'll have another shot at that.
He's a genuine look. If he was asked to go and shovel shit off the street, he would do it.
But peddling hot dogs and burgers hasn't gone down so well in aristocratic circles.
There were certain people of my class who said, Stuart, you're letting the side down. You shouldn't do that. And I said to them, if you need the money, what are you going to do? Oh, well, you shouldn't do that. I said, well, obviously you've got money, I haven't. Very humiliating, but at the same time, very, very proud. Now, I'm very proud. I was humiliated. Humiliated. Very proud.
I'll see you again whenever spring breaks through again. Time may lie heavy
between, but what has been is past forgetting. This sweet memory throughout my life will come to me, though my world may go awry, in my heart will ever lie just the echo of a sigh. Goodbye.
This waiting around is no good. Thanks very much. Goodbye. And I want my papers back as fast as possible. Further, I do the £3,500. Communicate right to me about it.
The Usher crusade never stops. From dawn to dusk, Stuart's recruiting allies or hounding enemies. His fight dominates family life.
Where are you going, darling? Daddy needs to find you.
when I'm working next week? No, let me just do it,
hang on
please.
for a while. You won't know anything about it.
Hello, good afternoon. Central Scotland Police.
Dad does take an interest in my life, social life, but possibly not as much as I would like him to take. But there's nothing more I can do about it. I mean, as long as he's happy fighting the lawyer's case and he's doing well in that, then that's all that really matters to me. So I would like him to take more of an interest, but never. Well, it will happen soon, but.
Telephone number 01835.
Stuart's like a dog with a bone.
He is.
Thanks
He
very
will
much.
keep
Goodbye.
at it. No luck, he's not there.
No, he said he was putting me through, and then a message, and an answering machine comes on. That's another trick. Now, I'm going to get the same fellow again, and I'm going to leave a message with him verbally.
And our phone bill goes up, 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 and we get nowhere.
Well, we're getting somewhere, darling.
Yeah, but the expense and all the money that's being used,
Hang on now, just hang on.
me running out.
Hello, good afternoon. Look, I tried just now, and you said you put me through to Chief Inspector Snedden. There's just an answering machine there.
When you complained to the Law Society about the way Brodie's had run your family's estate, in their report they said that you showed a paranoid suspicion of everyone involved and that you would never be prepared to accept any version of events other than your own. How do you react to that?
I think that's exactly. I would never be prepared to accept any version except my own, because I am the only person who knows what happened. And I certainly would not accept the Law Society's version.
I feel very hurt and annoyed when the papers say that my dad is paranoid whenever they do an article on him, because I know that's not true and he knows it's not true, and it hurts me very much just to see people say that about my father when it's not true.
Paranoid or not, the years of fighting alone may be starting to take their toll on Stuart. He's fast becoming a devotee of unbelievable conspiracy theories that verge on the absurd.
Various people warned me that if I became a real threat, for goodness sake, get copies made of all your papers and get them away from your house. But I have my suspicions about the phone being tapped. Well, I won't say what one chap told me. I mean, it put the fear of God into me, but, you know, I hope that never happens. But I won't say it, you know, because I think it's an exaggeration.
What do you mean?
Well, I won't say. It's a bit sort of...
Without saying his name.
That I'd be killed, yeah, if I went on with this.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Squire. You like onion with hot dogs? Yes, please. I've got burger, cheeseburger. Onions actually make them. A cup of tea and a cup of coffee, large or small. Quite a few people don't have it, you know, don't have onions, surprisingly enough.
As the tourist season gets underway, a rush on hot dogs is keeping Stuart away from the front line.
Well, the usual stuff. It's cheeseburgers, ordinary burgers, bacon rolls, hot dogs, jumbo sausages. Then we've got a fair selection of ice cream. My employer is famed for her bacon rolls, because she keeps excellent quality bacon. Thick pieces, 2 go into a roll. So when it's cooked, you've got the bacon's hanging out fantastically.
Are you a lord or something?
No, my name is Usher.
Oh, right.
A huge fight I've had with lawyers.
All right.
I'm trying to bring these lawyers to bring them down, you know.
All right.
So the story basically is one man's fight.
All right.
For justice, really.
Right.
Richard?
The family are about to fly to South Africa to visit Gillian's relatives for a month. But Stuart insists his battle has reached a critical stage and can't go with them.
I do worry about it, and I also worry, you know, that he's not going to get too overloaded and get maybe a bit depressed with it all because he's here on his own doing it. But I think he's got the will and the strength that will keep him going right until the bitter end.
The reason Stuart's staying home is that the Usher war with Brodie's has spiraled to another level. After 7 years of fighting, he's now threatened the firm with a draft summons for £365 million, the amount he claims his family is owed.
It's not bordering on an unhealthy obsession, is it?
I don't regard it as an obsession. I regard it as an ongoing fight. I felt the unhealthy parts of it sort of rise within me sometimes, but I watch out for that and I squash it before it sort of takes me over. Because if it takes me over, I'll lose the battle. My main aim is to win the battle.
Why did it say that?
Running in green, boarding, now gate 25.
Well, I didn't see that anything.
There, on this side.
Oh, right. What flight is it? BD 1339, is it?
Second from the bottom.
BD 009, right.
Ah, oh, hello.
Okay, well, have a wonderful holiday, darling.
Let's take in the petrol down.
No, I'll do that, my darling. Give my best wishes to everyone, okay? All right, Richard. Bye-bye, my boy. You have a good holiday. Okay. Bye, my darling. Have a good holiday. Really enjoy it. All right? Really enjoy it. Bye.
Learning scales will never seem so sweet again, till our destiny shall let us meet again. The will of fate may come too late.
Behind every man, successful man, not that I've been a particularly successful man, there is a good woman. And I certainly would not have got as far as I have in this particular fight without her material and moral support.
What do you think would have happened if Gillian had left you to cope with it on your own?
Well, I say I wouldn't have given up. Well, one doesn't know. I might have gone mad, or I might have committed suicide. I never got that low. But I've been in a situation where I was so furious and so frustrated that I'd be quite prepared to probably do a stupid thing, but for example, to borrow a gun and go and nail a few lawyers in Edinburgh, the ones who did us in particular.
Stuart makes regular pilgrimages back onto the estate. It's to show those who live there now that he's only in temporary exile.
Now we're sort of entering enemy territory. This really sticks in my bloody gullet too.
Over the years, he's developed a peculiar hostility towards his cousin, who still lives here. He says it stems from an old family squabble he had with her father, Brigadier Usher. Stuart is infuriated that she's built a modern bungalow where the family mansion once stood.
That was the site of Wells' house. Now, this woman was my cousin, has built this. As far as I'm concerned, it's a shack, and if I get my way, I'm going to bulldoze it down. Wells' house actually stood right, stretched across here. These were the balustrades and stuff in front of it. I see someone sitting in there. I think it's hideous the way they built it. I would have made it face this way. They got such a rotten taste, they wouldn't face it like that. Well, it makes me furious. I really would. I'd just bung a bulldozer through. If I get a big win, I'll put a bulldozer straight through it. Or I'd invite the local populace to come and take the tiles for nothing, and the brickwork. They could just help themselves.
Is anyone in?
Yeah, I saw her. She was working with the horses.
Sure.
And the stable girl. I wave, looks, scuttles off into the stable. Just scuttles off into the stable. No way back, nothing. Just scuttled off. I was waving furiously.
Stuart's life is a relentless feud. If he's not at war with his cousin, then it's the Scottish Law Society.
He's on holiday. He's perpetually on holiday. It's not good enough. She can speak to me. I won't keep her long. To me, it looks like a bit of dodging again, as usual with the Law Society. Hello, look, you put me through to an answering machine. He's not there. Thank you. His assistant is on holiday as well. It's always this minute of meetings and then no one ever rings back. There you are. Now, that's the type of thing. It's just on holidays, you know.
Why should I feel so sad, treasuring the memory of these days? Always, always.
From Lord of the Manor to Man of the People, Stuart's class conversion seems to be gaining momentum. Like the rest of the landed gentry, he was brought up to support the Conservatives. But with the general election interrupting his legal campaign, it's become clear Stuart's tradition of canvassing for the party is now one that's maintained through habit rather than conviction.
I think he's a first-class man. He's a first-class man. I think he's a first-class man. I know none of them seem to be much good at all at the moment. I quite agree with you. You sound a bit dubious. And I am not too impressed with any of the political parties at the moment. They tend to be rather trivial.
If they would think about the country instead of themselves.
Scoring party political points. I quite agree with you. I'm not too impressed with them at the moment. But I'll vote for them, you know. Because I see things now, really, from, well, what you could say, the working man's perspective. And before, I used to regard Labour and the Liberals as sort of the enemy, slightly. But, you know, in fact, I prefer them, in many ways, to a lot of people who are Tories. Seems rather extraordinary, but it seems rather, you know, it seems amazing, but that's the way it's happened, you know.
But one thing Stuart will never change his mind about is lawyers. Just a week after resigning, he's responded to a call from the troops and returned to the leadership of Scotland Against Crooked Lawyers. For now, at least, the infighting has been quelled.
There are them. Yeah, just disgusting. Watch out, they'll lead you on a wild goose chase. You'll be at it for years. And watch out if you go near an Edinburgh lawyer. They're the worst of the lot. One for your passenger there. She's nodding her head. Sorry.
In the past, Stuart has said he's quite prepared to undergo psychiatric tests to satisfy anyone who doubts his sanity.
This is the honest part arm of the law. It starts going wrong when things get into the hands of the lawyers.
Stuart's not the only member of his group who's felt driven to extremes.
We've got the worst system in Britain, never mind in Britain, in the whole world.
I'm very angry.
Angry? If I had a gun lawfully, I'd shoot half of them.
Well, I tell you, sometimes, I felt it doing, you're driven to it. And I have felt like that. And the only thing that stopped me, actually, is fear.
The family have made a timely return from South Africa. Having checked out Stuart, Gillian is keen to visit the other members of the Usher household.
Choir! Big boy, come on!
Choir and Fatty. They're kept in a neighbour's field.
What are her feet like, darling?
Absolutely fine, darling.
These horses have kept Jill and myself sane, I can tell you. They've been a sort of form of release and recreation.
Form of therapy.
Form of therapy, really, yeah, that's right. Despite them, they knocked my 2 teeth out. That bloody fella there did, about 2 months ago.
Have you found the last 4 or 5 years quite stressful, Jimmy?
Oh, yes, I have. There have been times when I suppose I've been the one possibly who's wanted to give up because of all the stress it causes Stuart, and he's lost a lot of weight and his health comes before everything. You're the one who's more optimistic, whereas for me I have doubted, but I know there's a lot of truth. Well, there is. Everything you say is true, so the truth will win in the end.
Yes, my darling. It's a big day for you tomorrow, darling. We're going to beat Brody's, darling. Now, Brody's Basher. Brody's Basher, darling. Now, watch your mouth. That's great.
The next phase of the PR war against Brody's is about to begin. And whether they like it or not, Stuart's roped in the family to help.
Watch this.
Over the last week, he's been busy scheming and has recruited a new ally. Although she doesn't know it, Fatty the pony has been drafted in to spearhead the charge.
My whole family, we all fight together, and they think it's going to be great fun. It is to embarrass them and just make them realize that there is no way out for them except the honorable way out.
With Stuart's battle cry still ringing in her ears, Fatty is taken to rest before leading the Usher clan into combat. Outside Brody's offices.
We made it just in time. Just got to have a leak in the box here, then I'll come out.
Stuart is growing impatient for the $365 million he claims his family is owed. He's learned that if he goes ahead with the lawsuit, it could be the biggest in Scottish legal history. But today, he's pursuing a more direct tactic.
I forgot the bloody posters, but I've thought of something better. I'm going to ask each person as they go in to prevail on them to cough up. That's actually better. We should stand. I've got to stand here. It's upsetting her, so come on, Bobby. Morning, do you work in this establishment?
Yes.
Right, well, would you, hang on, just give me a word here. They owe me £365 million. My name's Stuart Usher.
Hey.
I'll be calling for the cheque later on. You ask them to get it ready.
I'll tell them.
Tell the senior partner. Ask these jerkers to get my cheque for £365 million ready, please. Isn't she nice? Do you know why I'm here?
Yes, we know.
You know, you've seen me before here.
I've seen you a few times.
Right. This is fun, darling. This is a bit different from your normal day. And you've seen me here before.
Ages
And you think you're behind me.
I don't know what your case is, but it's glad to see people taking on companies.
Something should be done about these lawyers.
They could just get away with murder.
They get away with murder the whole time. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Need that.
Stuart's decided it's about time he went in to ask for his money.
Brody's got my cheque ready. You know, I should...
When he first started demonstrating, Brody's would give Stuart tea and biscuits. But it appears even they are starting to tire of his antics.
My father and Stuart were very different. I mean, my father had very strong convictions as well, but if it had got to the sort of the nitty-gritty of what we've been talking about, placarding outside Brody's, my father would never go down that route, and I must admit I don't think I would either.
Where is he? How big is this building? How long does it take? And you're the office manager. Right. So have they got? Do you know if they got my cheque ready? Because I asked a lot of people this morning to get the cheque ready for me. Yeah, he's perpetually on holiday, but I said I wanted it, so I won't wait for it. I mean, if they walked out with a cheque tomorrow for £300 million.
That's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, you asked me a question, and that's my answer to it. If they walked out with a cheque for £300 million tomorrow and said, right, off you go, I would go off. Come on, Michael. Come on. Yes. Come on now, come on.
Buoyed by his latest confrontation with Brody's and the thought that the summons could make Scottish legal history, Stuart has become even more determined to fight to the death. After joining him in the trenches, Fatty has now become the object of his new campaign.
That's it. Stand on my bloody foot.
He wants his pony to follow him on a spiritual journey he first made more than 30 years ago.
I stood on that hill there, 1968, and swore a solemn oath that I would never let these estates pass out of my family. Well, it's now 2001. They've passed out of my family, but I'll get them back.
Stuart believes the time has come to renew his vow. But if Fatty is to join him, she needs to shed a few pounds, and quickly.
What?
3 weeks on, even she is starting to discover the might of Stuart's resolve. She's been moved on to the lunging rope.
If your dad won, it would be a happier family life all round.
Definitely, yes. Dad he would just relax, and that's what he needs to do. He hasn't had a holiday for God knows how many years, and he'd hopefully put on some weight and be happy all together.
Go on. When I walk on this land, it's myself as a child and as a young man again. Now, I still regard it as my land, although it's not my land at the moment. But I put it like this: I don't regard it as my land in the selfish way. It's mine, not a bit of that. I regard this as Usher land.
The day of the climb has arrived. At 1,400 feet, Rubislaw towers above what was once the family's great estate. But Stuart Usher is a man who refuses to let anything beat him.
What drives a man? What does drive a man? Many things. If he's been done wrong in a dirty way, he becomes highly motivated.
If he has pride in his family, he becomes highly motivated. If his dying words of his father was to fight for wells, fight for the estates, a man becomes highly motivated.
Come on.
Those are the things that have motivated me.
Come on, girl. Oh, lovely, sweet smell of heather. Oh.
Stuart will never, ever accept failure. Failure would destroy Stuart completely.
You see that? We've got to get up there, my darling. If we don't get up, we're beat.
If my father passed away and this fight against this law firm wasn't resolved, I would definitely continue it for the rest of my life.
We're getting close to the summit, and for me, it's a very exciting moment. For her, she's excited in other ways, but for me, it's a culmination of years of fighting. But you keep going, and then suddenly the summit is much closer. I don't know if you noticed that now. It seemed a long way off, and then suddenly you're just about there. And the same applies with my fight with Brody's. They're quite close. I'm quite close to getting them now. Come on, girl. You're nearly there, my girl. Right, to the end of the road. Right to You're nearly there, Patty. It's quite some moment for me. Come on, girl.
How does it feel to be at the top, Stuart?
Oh, marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. But there were times when I thought, my goodness, I'm beat. But not now. Never now. What is black and brown and looks good on a lawyer? A Doberman Pinscher. What do you have when a lawyer is buried up to his neck in the sand? Answer, not enough sand. What is the difference between a dead dog in the middle of the road and a dead lawyer in the middle of the road? Answer, there are skid marks in front of the dog. I think it's the funniest thing in the world, that.